Welcome students to the online class, online study. Today we will see lesson number 2, the lost spring, which is a very good chapter in your syllabus, Flamingo textbook. So let us have the details about the author, who is the writer and the author of this lesson, Anais Jung. She is the writer of this lesson. She is an Indian writer. She had been to many places. She had been abroad for her higher education and studies. And she is very versatile and multi-talented writer. Once she had been an editor of Youth Times. She wrote many books. She authored several books, including Unveiling India, Nights of the New Moon, Seven Sisters, and Breaking of Silence. Now let's see the characters of this lesson. We have basically 3 characters. The first character is the author herself. The second is a small boy named Sahib-e-Alam. Now he belonged to a rag-picking family background, who is involved in rag picking. Now the third is also a small boy. His name is Mukesh. Now he belonged to a bangle making family background who lives in Firozabad. Now see the theme of this lesson. The author analyzed the grinding poverty of the poor class people. The theme of children exposed to poverty, lack, suffering, and exploitation is described in this lesson. These children are deprived or denied of the opportunity of getting education. More than that, they are forced to work and they are forced to labor early from their childhood. The plight of their situation, their dreams, the conflict between their dreams and aspirations, and the harsh situation or the realities of their life is brought about in this lesson. Now see the encounter of the author with Sahib-e-Alam. The author comes across Sahib every morning, and when the author looks at Sahib, he is doing something on the heap of garbage. He is trying to find out something in the heap of garbage. Now this is how she encountered Sahib-e-Alam. Now there is a short description about Sahib-e-Alam. Sahib left his home in Dhaka. He is not a resident of India. His native place is in Dhaka. A long time ago, his family, they have left their homeland. They have come to India, particularly on a place called Simapuri, that is nearby area, that is on the outskirts of New Delhi. And they live in a slum area called Simapuri. Now this boy, Sahib-e-Alam, he regularly go to the garbage heaps in order to find something from it. The author once asked Sahib, why does he do that? Or why are you finding things from the garbage? Or why are you scrounging the garbage? So he replied to her, it's because he did not have anything else to do. So the author suggests him, just go to school if you have not anything to do. Then he replies that it's because there is no school in his neighborhood. So the author promised, what if that she could open up a school? Then Sahib will be willing to come or not. So Sahib gladly says that if you would open the school, I will come. Okay. Now this was a kind of promise that was made by the author to Sahib. After several days, again the author encounter or meet Sahib. And on that time, this little boy, he asked to the author, is your school ready? And author was shocked because she knew that this was a kind of hollow promise, the promise that will never come true. So author was surprised and shocked. And author realized that such hollow promises are given to such people who live in extreme poverty and slum area. There are many promises made by the politicians. There are many promises made by the officials, social workers, but they remain untrue. They remain unfulfilled regarding these people. Now regarding Simapuri, there are more than 20,000 rag pickers. They live in Simapuri, on the outer edge of Delhi, in the structures of mud, with roofs of tin, devoid of sewage, drainage or running water. They are squatters who came from Bangladesh in 1971. They have lived in Simapuri more than 30 years without identity card or permit. They have right to vote. That means they might have the documents, they might have the ration card, they might have the voter ID card, and in fact they go to do the voting, but they don't have any identity. With ration cards, they get food, they get grains, and they consider food is more important for their survival than their identity. And they say that wherever they find food, they would pitch their tent, and that becomes their transient home. And in this transient home, in this home, the children grow up along with the parents, and they become their survival partner. That means the parents are involved in rag picking. The children who grows up, slowly or gradually, they also get involved in the profession, in the rag picking of their parents in order to make their survival. In Simapuri, survival means rag picking. Through the years, rag picking has acquired the proportion of a fine art. Now, the difference of mentality here. For children, the rag picking means something different. For the parents, rag picking is something different. For parents, it is a medium of their survival, their food, their source of income, while for children, garbage means different. For them, garbage is something very different, while for parents, garbage is a source of their income. It is a source of their survival. It is a source that provide their daily bread and a roof over their heads. So for children it is different. Now Sahib says that sometimes he find a rupee or even a 10 rupee note in the garbage. Then there in finding of more, he would scrounge the garbage. He would search in the garbage. So if he find a 1 rupee note, he hoped to find more. Perhaps he could find a 5 rupee coin. Perhaps he could find more or 10 rupees note. So he scrounged the garbage. He searched the garbage with a hope to find rupees, or as well as many things like toys. Many things are discarded by the people. So the Sahib would take those things. So garbage has a different meaning from what it means to their parents. For children, garbage is something that is wrapped with wonder. They would get sometimes coins, sometimes they would get toys, sometimes they get valuable things which are discarded by people. So garbage is wrapped of wonder. So that is the reason why the children of Simapuri, they scrounge the garbage, they search the garbage, hoping to find valuable things. But for the parents, it is a source of their survival. It is a source of their income. One winter morning, the author finds Sahib standing by the fenced gate of a neighbor club. He was watching 2 men playing tennis. They were dressed in white uniform. Sahib liked the game, but he is content to watch it standing behind the fence. Now on that time, when he was standing outside of that tennis court, he was wearing discarded tennis shoes that looked stranger over his discolored shirt and shorts. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. Now see here, these children of Simapuri, they did not wear shoes or sandal. They moved around without having shoes or sandals. Now once when the author asked Sahib, why don't you wear sandals or shoes? So the manner of explanation is given by one slum boy. He says that his mother had kept the shoes on the shelf, which he cannot approach, which he cannot go and take his shoes. But the reality is that it is due to their poverty. They don't have shoes, or they don't have money to buy shoes. The second manner of explanation is that we don't like to wear shoes. The children says that we don't like to wear shoes. So that is the manner of explanation, to hide their poverty, to hide their inability to buy shoes. Now in this time, Sahib was standing outside of the fence watching the tennis players as they were playing in the tennis court. He liked this game very much. He liked tennis very much. But what happens? His circumstances would not allow him to go into the court and play with them. So he is content, he is satisfied by just only watching the game. Now he is also wearing tennis shoes, one of which had a hole in them. So the shoes that he is wearing is discarded by some rich children. Now once in the morning, again the author encountered Sahib. Now this time he is going to a milk booth or a milk dairy, and in his hand he hold a steel canister, and one can assume or imagine that the way he is going to the milk booth, the way he is going to a tea stall or a milk dairy with a canister, that he is now working in a tea stall. He is going to the milk booth in order to buy the milk, and then he will come to the tea stall and he will work there. He is paid 800 rupees and all his meal. Sahib is no longer his master. Previously, when the author encountered Sahib, he was a free guy, he was a free person. He roamed here and there without shoes, without chappals, without sandals. He is master of his life. No one would restrict him. No limitation, no restriction over his life. He is the master of his own life. Now Sahib-e-Alam means the Lord of universe. Once when the author see him picking up something from the garbage without the knowledge that his name means the Lord of universe. Now this time when the author see him working in a tea stall, it gives us an impression that no longer he is the master of his life. He lost his freedom. Now he has to work under the master or the owner of that tea stall. This is the plight of Sahib-e-Alam. He is deprived of education. Moreover, he had a dream to become a tennis player. He liked the game, but his circumstances would not allow him. His situation would not allow him to do so. But he is forced to do the work. This is the plight of his situation, circumstances that the author want to display or discuss in this lesson. The dream of Sahib is much, much higher than his approach. But he is contented to watch the tennis game or tennis sport. He is contented with the tennis shoes. Now he is forced to work in a tea stall. It seems that the steel canister he is holding in his hand is much, much weightier than, heavier than the bag that he used to carry when he would pick up rags from the heaps of garbage. That means he lost his carefree look. Now he is working under somebody else. Now he is supposed to carry out the work under the supervision and the order of the tea stall owner. We will move on to the next part of this lesson. It is about Mukesh. The author come across Mukesh in Firozabad. His family is engaged in the business of bangle making. Indeed, Firozabad is famous for glass industry and bangle making. But Mukesh insists on being his own master. He says that he wants to become a motor mechanic and drive a car. It is the ambition of his life. It is the aspiration of his life. Now let us see the description about Firozabad. Firozabad is famous for glass blowing industry. Every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. Families have spent generations working around furnace, welding glasses, making bangles for women. None of them know that it is illegal for children like Mukesh to work in the glass furnace with high temperature. They work in congested cells where there is no ventilation, there is no proper air, there is no light also. They slog their daylight hours, often losing brightness of their eyes. If the law is enforced, it could get Mukesh and 20,000 children out of this hot furnace. That means law is not implemented totally in Firozabad. Even many children like Mukesh, they are involved in making bangles. Now the area they work is very congested, dingy cells where there is no light, no air, and when they grow and become an adult, they lose their eyesight. They walk down sinking the chalked lanes with garbage, past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, wobbly doors with no windows. Such is the residential area of Mukesh. The description of slum area where the lanes or the drains are chalked with garbage, broken, crumbling walls, wobbly doors, there are no windows. Now that's the place where human and animals coexist together. As the author and Mukesh enter a half-built shack, one part of it is thatched with dead grass. She saw a frail young woman cooking evening meal over a firewood stove. The author saw a young woman, she is preparing her meal for the evening on a firewood stove. She is the wife of Mukesh, elder brother, and already in charge of 3 men, her husband, Mukesh, and her father. She is the only caretaker and the one who prepares meal in the house. The Mukesh father is a poor bangle maker. Despite of long years of hard work, first as a tailor, then as a bangle maker, he has failed to renovate the house. And at the last, he sent his 2 sons to the school. Somehow, he has managed to teach these children what he knew, the art of bangle making. That means the children are taught by the parents the art of bangle making. Thus, each and every children in Firozabad are naturally involved in the art of bangle making. Mukesh's grandmother has watched her own husband go blind with dust of the polishing of the glass bangles. Now this work of glass bangle is very dangerous work. Children who work in the hot furnace, in the dingy cells, often lose their eyesight when they grow up. Now the description of Mukesh's grandmother is given here, that she had seen her husband becoming blind by the polishing of that glass bangles. Now she says that it is his destiny. She implies that God-given lineage can never be broken. One of the mentality of the people of Firozabad is that the profession of bangle making, the work of bangle making is given by God. It is their traditional or family business that they should carry on, that the coming generation should carry on. There have been born in the caste of bangles and bangle makers and have seen nothing but bangles of various color. She continued to say that they have been born in the caste, in the background, in the family of bangle makers, and none of them have ever seen anything except the bangles of various colors. Boys and girls would sit with their father and mother, welding the pieces of colored glasses into circles of bangles. They work in dark hutments next to the lines of the flames of flickering oil lamps. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. Now when they continuously work, the children, they continuously work in darkness, their eyes have automatically adjusted to the darkness or to the dim light of the oil lamps. They could not adjust their eyes in the light outside. It becomes more difficult for them to adjust in the light than in the darkness. They often end up losing their eyesight before they become adult. This is the plight. This is the very, sad part of their life, that they end up their life in the very young age. They end up blind. Now the author see a young girl who was sitting beside an elderly woman. She was soldering the piece of glass. Her hands moved mechanically like the thongs of a machine. Now this movement of her hand is described mechanically. That means the speed of her hand, the movement of her hand is very mechanical. Just like a machine, she is working on it. Perhaps she does not know the sanctity of the bangles she helps make. The old woman beside her has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire life. That elderly woman who is sitting beside Savita, author says that she has never enjoyed a full meal in her entire lifetime. Her husband is an old man with flowing beard. He knows nothing except bangles. He has made a house for the family to live in. He has a roof over his head. The husband of this elderly woman, he could do nothing except making a house for his entire family. Little has moved with time in Firozabad. Families do not have enough to eat. They do not have money to do anything except carry on their family business of bangle making. The young man echoed the lament of their elders. They have fallen into the vicious circles of middlemen who trapped their father and forefather. Years of mind-numbing toil have killed all initiative and all their ability to dream. They are born in such a family. They are born in the profession of bangle making, which made their ability to seize, that means their ability to dream, their ability to do something innovative, is taken away. No more they are willing to carry out anything new or any other kind of business. They are unwilling to get organized into a cooperative. They fear that they will be hauled by the police, beaten and dragged to the jail for doing something illegal. There is no leader among them. No one helps them to see the things differently. All of them appear tired. They talk of poverty, apathy, greed and injustice. Their life moves from poverty, apathy, greed and injustice. This has become the circle of their life, and their life revolves in that particular circle. They don't want to do anything besides their family business. Two distinct worlds are visible. One family caught in poverty, burdened with the stigma of caste in which they are born. The other, the vicious circle of moneylenders, the middlemen, the policemen, the keepers of the law and the politicians. The author visualized two different worlds. One, the families, those who are born in that stigma of caste, that this is their work and they are supposed to carry it anyway. It's because that's their caste. The other, the powerful men of the city, like the policemen, the keepers of the law, politicians, the bureaucrats, the moneylender, together they have imposed the heavy weight on these poor families, so that if they wanted to do something new, they are unable to do. This is the situation, this is the plight that they face. Now, what happens then after? The people accept it as naturally as their father. The people accept the fact that we are born to do this thing and anyhow we have to do this thing. So this becomes their attitude towards their profession. To do anything else would mean to dare. And daring is not part of their growing. But Mukesh, author sees something different in Mukesh. He wants to become a motor mechanic. He wants to pursue his dream. An author asked once, how you are going to become a motor mechanic? He says that I will go to the garage and I will learn the work there. Then after, I will become a motor mechanic and drive a car. At this, the author again asks a question. Since the garage is far, so how will you go there? He says that I will go by walking. I will learn the work there and become a motor mechanic. This is the light of hope in Mukesh. But his real circumstance or his real situation is different. That would not allow him to fulfill his dream in his life. These are the plight of poverty-stricken people. These are the plight of people who are facing the extreme poverty in their life. So these two boys well express the plight situation, the terrible situation that they are in while they are struggling with their dreams and aspirations.